Welcome to the Moon Baby Magic Podcast, a space for women and women's stories. For the woman just beginning to believe she can actually heal her painful period naturally. For the one in a full-on love affair with aligning her entire life with her cycle. And for every woman in between. This is a platform to remember the wisdom that lives in our wombs so that we may actualize the lives of our dreams. I'm your host, Natalie Elliott, women's health practitioner specializing in traditional Chinese medicine-based hormonal healing. Ready for slow and sacred storytelling and to learn a little something? Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Moon Baby Magic Podcast. I'm here today for another solo episode, and what I want to talk about today, this is going to be a quick one, but what I want to talk about is something kind of personal, and that's that my thyroid symptoms have been popping back up a little bit again, and I want to tell you about why I'm not freaking out about that and what I'm actually doing about it. And I'm standing today. I'm staying in this spot in Los Angeles for another week, and it's a sit-stand desk, and I put the desk to stand, and it won't go back to sit. Giving you some context from my life, I'm also on cycle day 7 and just encouraging you to check in with where you're at in your cycle. So I'm in my follicular energy. Energy's pretty high. I'm feeling pretty good, pretty stoked on life. But yeah, some of my thyroid symptoms have been popping back up, and what that looks like for me is my overall basal body temperature is lower. And actually, before I even get into what specific symptoms have been popping back up, if you're curious, I have a couple episodes talking about my story with my thyroid. The latest one would be the episode I released about root cause thyroid healing. And later in this episode, I'm going to let you know that the root cause thyroid protocol is a great place to start if you are struggling with some of these same symptoms as me and want kind of a clear path forward. And you can find the link for that in the show notes. There's also an episode I recorded at the 1-year anniversary of Moon Baby Magic, which would have been July of 2025, so a year ago. Wow, now we're at like the 2-year anniversary of the podcast. Wow, that's exciting. Sweet. Happy 2-year anniversary, Moon Baby Magic. I guess I like to talk about thyroid around this time. But that wasn't a specific thyroid episode. It was just a little bit about my own journey and story. So cliff notes for that is I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's when I was 13 years old and was medicated for many years. In the years of 2022 and 2023, I stopped my medication. And around this time in the summer, I would get like kind of a pretty big crash. And summer of 2023 was the worst one. I was really struggling to even have the energy to get out of bed. My thyroid numbers were so crazy that my functional doctor was like, I don't know how you're even functioning. I don't know either. My face was puffy. I was bloated. I was so emotionally moody and depressed. And I'm so not in that place anymore. And I'm so grateful. But just to give you that little background. And now, like I said, some of my thyroid symptoms are back, and I don't want to pretend like I'm perfect. Like sometimes I do notice these things and it does make me anxious. But I'm really trying my best not to freak out. And I want to tell you a little bit about that journey and just be real with some of you and hopefully provide some relatability and give you some insight into how to navigate when things pop back up for you, because it's going to happen and it's actually not a problem. So first of all, what's popping back up for me? The first thing I noticed was my energy levels. I started noticing that I was just a little more tired than usual. That was kind of my baseline for much of my life, was just being always a little bit tired, especially in the afternoon. And since the summer started, I've noticed that I am getting that energy dip in the afternoon and taking naps. I haven't taken a nap in years. Maybe feeling like a little sluggish in the morning, a little bit hard to get out of bed. And if you're listening and you're like, oh, I didn't know that was not normal, it's not. Like, you should wake up with energy. You should have sustained energy throughout the day. And if you don't, that is why I created the root cause thyroid healing protocol. That's going to help you out. I've noticed it very subtly, and I'm very attuned to these things because this is a pattern I've worked with through most of my life. And so I've noticed that. I noticed that my basal body temperature, that was like my clear sign, like, okay, my thyroid's struggling a little bit, is lower. So your basal body temperature is that temperature you take to track your cycle at the beginning of every morning. And maybe I should record an episode on fertility awareness method. If you want that, message me on Instagram or comment on this podcast episode and let me know. But yeah, ideally your basal body temperature is in the 97 range in your follicular phase, and it jumps up to the 98 range in your luteal phase after ovulation. And I've noticed that in my follicular phase, my temperatures are hovering at like 96.9. And in my luteal phase, they're not quite making it to 98. So that was my second sign. And that's because your thyroid regulates your metabolism. And so that low, sluggish metabolism shows up as the cold in your body. A couple other things I noticed, some dandruff in my hair, dry scalp. That dryness is a thyroid sign, and just sort of like dry hair and skin in general. And I also noticed that I was a little more forgetful than usual. I don't think I've necessarily had brain fog where it's like that sluggish, slow thinking, but every once in a while I've walked into a room and kind of forgot why I was in there. And that is the symptom that did kind of start to scare me, because the last time my thyroid stuff got really bad, that was the biggest thing, was like just not being able to really remember things, or I would even forget words. It's not that bad right now, but when it was really bad, I would forget words for things. And yeah, like if you do notice these things in yourself, I encourage you to also not freak out. Because these aren't ideal, they're not optimal, but it's just a sign that your body is giving you that something's probably going on. I guess the last thing I'll say I noticed is like a little bit of bloating in my luteal phase, which I just haven't had luteal phase symptoms in so long. So I was bloated for a couple days, and that was really obvious to me because I haven't been bloated in a very long time. So the bloating was quite a shock. And all of this actually feels kind of good in a way, because the symptoms popping back up tell me like how good I felt for so long. And I have a couple theories as to why my thyroid symptoms have popped back up. The main one just being summer. Autoimmune condition. So I have Hashimoto's. That's the autoimmune version of hypothyroidism, or like the autoimmune condition that causes hypothyroidism. And autoimmune conditions can be exacerbated by heat. And I can see it in my tongue. There's definitely heat in my tongue. My tongue is a little redder. My body is a little hotter. I do feel that heat. And summer not only is a time of heat, like it's hot outside, but in traditional Chinese medicine, there is this yang energy that characterizes summer. And so it's a lot of doing. It's less sleeping. It's more action. It's less rest. It's probably not as much like nervous system regulation, though I would argue that having fun is deeply nervous system regulating. But one thing about the thyroid is that the thyroid is most root cause of thyroid dysfunction has to do with dysregulation in general. And that often looks like not having routines during your day, having sort of day-to-day stress, or just like a sense of depletion. Because the thyroid, I have said this so many times, but in case this is the first time you're hearing it, the thyroid has receptor sites on every cell in your body. So virtually anything that you do is going to affect your thyroid in some way. Whether that's your gut, whether that's your liver, whether that's your sleep, like really sleep. And so what the thyroid really needs is regularity. Before I get into some of these ways that I'm going to start supporting myself, I want to really bring this concept home and drive this home for you, that the idea when symptoms start popping up again, whether that's your thyroid low energy, brain foggy symptoms, or whether that's your period being painful, whether that's having an emotional outburst in your luteal phase after being regulated for months, whether that's spotting before your period when you haven't in a couple of cycles. The idea is to not freak out, because I believe, and one of my like brand principles is that the body is always doing things intelligently, and the other one is that your healing is inevitable. So anytime something pops up, I try to see it as an opportunity for redirection and refinement. And I almost even try to say, instead of, oh shit, what's going on in my body? How can I instead shift my focus to, thank you, body, for telling me where you are needing more support? And so just really bringing that home for you. I think we all have a constitution. My constitution happens to be this low thyroid, low energy, sort of yang deficient constitution. Someone else's constitution might be tending towards yeast infections. Someone else's constitution might be tending towards liver qi stagnation and a lot of PMS symptoms. There's so many different ways. Maybe you tend more towards yin deficiency and you get like a super red peeled tongue and are like wired but tired all the time and can't sleep well. And that pops back up and you have very light periods perhaps. We all have our underlying constitution, and rather than think about how do we fix our constitution, it's how do we bring our constitution back into balance. In traditional Chinese medicine, it's never about fixing any perceived brokenness. You're not broken. It's about how can we bring everything in your body into harmony and into this dynamic balance of yin and yang, of qi and blood. Okay, that being said, a few of the ways that I am bringing my body back into balance rather than freaking out and doing what I did in the past, which was how do I do all the things to fix this and take all the supplements and contact all the doctors and freak myself out with all the research and obsess over every symptom and every food. I'm not going to do that this time. I vowed that to myself because I've done that for 3 summers in a row. I'm not doing that this time. And what I'm instead doing is getting back to the basics. And so what my thyroid really needs, and what all of our thyroids need, what our body needs in general, but specifically the thyroid, is regularity, root healing, stress reduction, supportive routines. And what that looks like for me right now is I guess what I should say is some questions I'm asking myself. What's going on with my gut? Am I getting enough sleep? What can I control and what is out of my control? Can I navigate this without freaking out? And what kind of support do I need? What's going on with my gut? Well, I actually think I'm taking pretty good care of my gut, but I will say that there's definitely been a few meals where I haven't had quite enough protein this summer. It's so easy to be out and about and active and sort of saying like, yeah, I'll just have a quick breakfast, or I'll wait 5 or 6 hours after lunch before I have dinner, or after breakfast before I have lunch. And over time, those things lead to a lack of safety in the body. And so the body's going to send signals in whatever the way that your constitutional pattern sends a signal. So whether that's the PMS, whether that's the low energy and fatigue and brain fog, whether that's the painful periods, okay, the yeast infections, your body's going to send signals and say, hey, I noticed you haven't been feeding me regularly. Can we get back on that? So that's one thing. Am I sleeping enough? Well, probably not. Definitely not. And that's one that I am in a bit of a conundrum with. Because as some of you might know, if you're regular listeners to this podcast or if you follow me on Instagram, part of the healing era I'm in now is having fun. I spent many years on anti-inflammatory protocols and deep root healing, and it really served me to give me my energy back. Give me my life back, as shown by these symptoms popping up and being quite shocking, whereas before they were just normal day-to-day parts of my life. And because I have started dancing salsa and bachata, my sleep is not great. You really should be going to sleep. We really should be going to sleep before 11 p.m. and sleeping for 9 hours. There's at least 2 nights a week, most weeks, sometimes 1, but generally 2, where I'm going to bed at 1 a.m. and then waking up at 7:30 or 8. And so I know that I'm not getting enough sleep. So how I'm navigating that in my real life is I'm trying to be discerning about which nights I go out and dance, trying to find some dance events that end early, which does happen. But I'm also focusing on things other than the sleep, because in this phase of my life, it is important to me to have fun and to nurture this hobby that I have. So if you're like, you know what, Natalie, this one thing in my life, I can't eat a lot of protein for dinner right now. That's not working for me. Okay, how can we beef up? Beef up. It's a great word for it. Breakfast and lunch. How can we, if diet is hard for you right now, if you're struggling to cook for yourself for whatever reason, how can we make sure you're getting enough sleep and maybe add in some targeted supplements and minerals so that we can sort of make up for that? Now, I do think that diet and sleep are probably the most important things, but we're all where we're at, right? And it's summer, and I don't want you to let go of the things that bring you joy. I want you to figure out what you need to bring yourself back into balance. Diet-wise too, I'm like, okay, if my gut is needing a little support, it's probably time to get a little support. So I'm personally going to be using some Chinese herbs, making myself a customized formula, which I do for most of my clients, that will address kind of what my tongue says, which what I've seen in my tongue, there's a little bit of dampness, which has to do with the gut. And my tongue is actually quite red and purple, so it's showing some stagnation in my liver as well. So those are a couple things I'm going to be doing for myself. What can I control and what is out of my control? Yeah, I can control the protocols that I give for myself. I can control what I feed my body. I can control my routines. I am definitely getting more structured about how I spend my days, making sure that I try to have regularity in my meal times since I'm not having it in my sleep schedule. And what kind of support do I need? Well, this goes along with the other question, which is how can I navigate this without freaking out? What kind of support do I need and how can I navigate this without freaking out? So what kind of support do I need? I needed myself 3 years ago, to be completely honest with you. And that's why I do the work that I do today, is because I was searching for someone who could help me with root cause healing that blended physiological and emotional, clinical and spiritual. And I never found that. So I became that. And I'm very grateful to be that for the women in my practice and maybe for you if you are looking for some deeper support. But I'm also leaning on my mentor, Kristen, quite a bit, for her to help me just kind of navigate it mostly in the emotional realms. Like I'm creating my own protocols because I have the background and the studies to be able to know kind of what my body needs. But I'm leaning on the people in my life like Kristen and like some of my friends who kind of know a little bit of my story to be able to just hold me and help me hold it without freaking out. And I think that's really key, to have someone in your corner to help you hold whatever you're moving through so that you're not freaking out. And I think about this with my clients. Like I think one client in particular, I won't get into details, but she had some irregular bleeding throughout her cycle and it wasn't the best color. And you know, because I have this voice note thing with my clients, she was able to message me and send pictures and be like, what is going on? And having me there to hold it with her, having someone there to hold it with you is like, okay, I don't have to freak out about this. I can protect my nervous system from that, because I will tell you that a dysregulated nervous system is much worse for your body than any kind of seed oils and lack of sleep. I hate to say it, but that's what's true. And so those are kind of some of the things I'm doing to support myself and control what I can control. And I encourage you to ask yourself that question too. What is it that you can control? What is it that is out of your control? How can you orient more to supporting your body rather than trying to fix something that you perceive as a problem and being in communication with your body? What kind of support do you need? If you're someone who tends to freak out and overanalyze and obsess and create an entire new protocol every time one symptom pops up, congrats, you're a lot like me. I'm glad you're here. But you might need someone like me to walk you through this for a little bit, or at least a clear path to kind of stick to and focus on rather. And that for me has been pretty revolutionary, and it's something that I will be implementing now, is sticking in one lane. It's really easy to think you need every single different approach, but when you stick with one practitioner, one lane, one methodology, and you really stay with that, that creates the regularity that helps your nervous system be at ease, and it gives you time to actually let something work. And if you're looking for something like that, I really do believe in the product I created with the Root Cause Thyroid Healing Protocol. It has helped so many women be able to combat their thyroid symptoms and start getting their energy and their lives back. I highly recommend that as a place to start. And if beyond that you want one-on-one support, we can talk. But I would really love for you to start there. And what I would like to take you to take action on today, other than that, if that's your next step, is softening around your healing. Yeah, I just want that to land for a minute. What would it feel like to hold whatever it is that is coming up for you a little more lightly? What if it was actually okay? and it didn't have to be a huge catastrophe. And all you had to do was listen and make a few shifts and control what you can control and trust your body to come back into harmony with the rest. So that's a little bit of what I wanted to share today. Thanks for hearing me. Thanks for being on this journey with me and witnessing me and my own healing journey. And I'm sure I'll be sharing more about this process online on Instagram. You can follow along there. All the links are always in the show notes of this podcast. And I hope that this has helped you feel a little more softness and grounding around what is going on in your body, and that you can lean back into that trust a little more. Thank you for tuning in to the wisdom of the womb today. It's truly such an honor to bring these stories and teachings forward to you, and it would mean so much to me if you'd rate and review this podcast so that it can reach more women. If you're looking for deeper support, you can always find the link to join our online community, the Cyclical Living Circle with the best women in the world, in the show notes. And you'll also find the links to book one-on-one virtual sessions for your specific needs, as well as any workshops or courses I'm currently offering. Plus, you can follow me on Instagram, and I love to connect with you all there. All right, see you next week.